Wineries are piling up on the market, but buyers are thinning out. U.S. direct-to-consumer wine sales took a hit in 2025, but there is hope. Solo drinkers say the 750 milliliter standard bottle no longer works. They want a new bottle, a new size to match their modern lifestyles, or maybe they could just buy a quart of it. When diners start choosing water like wine, I think we all know we've lost our minds, but we're going to talk about that anyway. All that and more on this week's episode of This Week Uncorked. Well, hello, and welcome to episode 87 of This Week Uncorked for Monday, March 16, 2026. I'm Brett Martin from Cork and Journey. If you're not familiar with us, well, where have you been? We're your number one source for corkage fees, as well as wine reviews, restaurant reviews, regional wine guides, and oh so much more. Now let's dig into this week's wine news. Cheers, everyone. Well, over at Wine Searcher, W. Blake Gray, our favorite wine reporter, man on the streets there, is reporting that a growing number of wineries and vineyard properties, especially in California, are listed for sale. Qualifying buyers, though, remain in short supply. This seems to be happening everywhere. We are noticing just a glut of vineyards and wineries. Nobody's buying them. The prices are coming down. It's not much different than what we're seeing with homeowners, though, because you're getting kind of the same thing with homes. They're on the market forever. The prices start high. They come down low. Let's face it, interest rates are pretty high right now. And who wants to buy a business that is failing, which a good chunk of these wineries are? So from the article, about 85% of wineries in the U.S. are smaller than 5,000 cases, said Azure Associates founder Pat DeLong. There are far more wine downs than sales. They just don't get publicized. In other words, people are just closing their wineries. They're not even selling them. DeLong was one of 5 panelists last week at a seminar called Love It or List It at the Unified Wine and Grape Symposium in Sacramento. As we said, there are more sellers today and far fewer buyers. One interesting fact that will make environmentalists happy is that, believe it or not, bankers are suddenly interested in regenerative farming. But bankers only want a return on investment, you protest. Well, that's right. But Jennings said that unlike organic farming, you should go back and watch last week's episode, which costs more to do and doesn't produce larger crop or higher grape prices, regenerative farming is supposed to extend the working life of the vineyard. You hear this a lot. If you can treat the soil health as an asset, where you can get another 10 to 15 years out of that vineyard, you can get more return, Jennings said. That's where we've seen interest, because you don't get a return out of an organic or sustainable vineyard. It's getting out of control. But anyway, hey, you want a winery, want to get in the business, want to be a farmer, and then after you're a farmer and you harvest the grape, you want to take it and turn it into a product. It's an ostentatious parlay. Check out a couple shows back. Anyway, moving on, Meisinger International is reporting, Jeff Siegel's reporting that DTC, that's direct-to-consumer wine shipments in the United States, have experienced their most severe decline on record in 2025. I did go back, and direct-to-consumer wine sales in the 1300s also took a pretty big hit, but it seems like this might be the biggest in modern times. Anyway, the data from the annual Sovos Shipment Compliant and Wine Business Analyst Report, shipments dropped sharply in both volume and value, marking the worst contraction since the market channel has been tracked. Analysts say the downturn reflects broader structural shifts in the wine consumption and buying behavior. Anyway, here's the bottom line. Sales are just plummeting on all aspects. So not only are people not buying it through supermarkets and the other means, but they're also the direct-to-consumers, which is just the lifeblood of so many of these wineries, where you come in and you join a wine club and they sell it to you directly. Those sales are also starting to decrease and fall off the cliff. So from the article, by one estimate, DTC accounted for between 1/2 and 2/3 of a typical U.S. winery sales in 2025. Yet, DTC market totaled just 5.4 million cases and $3.7 billion in sales in 2025. That compares with 6.4 million cases and $3.94 billion in 2024. So put it in perspective, a 20 to 10% decrease. The decrease in dollars is far less than the decrease in cases, which is interesting. The average price of a bottle sold via DTC was $56.78, up 11% from last year, which explains the slight change, even though volume sales were much lower. That means that although significantly fewer bottles of wine were sold, the ones that were sold were much more expensive. The anomaly, says Jason Haas of Paso Robles, Tablas Creek, points to a way to steady DTC sales. There's a mismatch between what we're making and what the new generation of wine lovers is wanting, says Haas, whose winery sells 60% of its 30,000 case production via direct-to-consumer. But where sales were flat last year, we have to help them find where the cool stuff is, since they don't buy the same kind of wines as baby boomers. Until then, say analysts, it's going to be more bad news. Tablas Creek is, I think the thing is, the first place you see on your way into Paso and the last place on your way out. Beautiful tasting room, beautiful winery. And so, they are huge direct to consumer. So I think he probably does know what he's talking about. And in other news, I don't know. So this is a blog that I found, Ayumi Wonder and Dine. Could not find her name. If it's her, couldn't find. But she has a pretty nice blog on all things wining and dining. And anyway, she is basically saying that the 750 millimeter wine bottle, it doesn't work. It's too big for solo drinkers. So if you're at home alone, you open a bottle of wine, you pour yourself 2 glasses. The other half, while it can keep, it's not going to be as good. It's just not going to have that, what it should be. I mean, you might want to decant wine for an hour, but unless you can get all of the air out of it, and there are many different preservation methods, there's a lot you could do. We've discussed these, but looking at the whole thing, she's saying, why not just make it easy on us and sell us a bottle that has less wine in it? So from the article, for a solo drinker, 750 is simply too much. I usually drink about 1/3 to half a bottle in the evening. The rest goes back into the fridge. The next day, it's still drinkable, but no longer exciting. So I'm kind of echoing this, because once a bottle is open, the clock starts ticking. What begins as breathing quickly turns into slow flavor loss. Wine just goes bad, basically. She argues that the sweet spot sits around 400 to 500 milliliters. For consumers, this side would mean enjoying wine at peak freshness every time, supporting healthier, moderate consumption, reducing waste and unfinished bottles, and matching modern solo lifestyles. Honestly, it does make a lot of sense. I mean, there's a lot of times, we were over some friend's house the other day, and they had the 375 milliliter bottles, which is half a bottle. And it was kind of nice, because at the end of the evening, we drunk a bottle or two of wine, and it goes, you want a glass? And I'll have a glass. Someone else wanted a glass, and nobody else did. You know what? That little 375 milliliter bottle came in perfect for that. So I wouldn't mind seeing this as well. And wrapping up the news, the Triad City Beat. I don't even know where this is. The Triad City Beat. Staff reports that restaurants are increasingly elevating water to a curated tasting experience. So we've talked about water somms in the past, that there are in fact water somms, but this is kind of taking to the different level where somms now are guiding diners through the mineral profiles, origins, and pairing suggestions. Yes, pairing suggestions. This water pairs good with everything. Anyway, from the article, water is water, right? But sommeliers and chefs across the country are pushing back on that idea, arguing that the differences between waters are just as real as the differences between wines. And diners are starting to pay attention. Look at the emperor. Don't you love his new clothes? Anyway, the soil, the altitude, the climate, water, it turns out, works the same way. A spring filtered through a volcanic rock in Iceland tastes nothing like one that flows through limestone in the Italian Alps. The mineral content is different. The mouthfeel is different. Even the way it pairs with food changes depending on where it came from and what it picked up along the way. Okay, water does taste different. Mineral water tastes different depending on where it came from. I agree. But we've lost our minds if we're going to take it to a food pairing level, in my opinion. Let me know how you feel. I'm curious. And with that, let's get to our wine and winery of the week. All right, we're going to go to Cordon of Santa Barbara. This is the Santa Barbara Winery. Tasting room is in Solvang, California. And man, oh man, oh man, the winemaker and founder is Etienne Terleden, and he is just passionate. We were so lucky. We came in this day, and he was behind the counter, and there was no one else there. Man, did we have the tasting of a lifetime, going through all of his wines with him drinking with us along the way. Just a lot of fun, and just kind of running through everything. That last picture says it all right there, Tina, with at the end. Anyway, I highly recommend $28 for the tasting. I can't guarantee you're going to taste that many wines if you go through it, but he does make some outstanding wines. The Treaty of Cayunga Syrah, if you can find it, Treaty of Cayunga Syrah from Cordon is outrageously good. So I would check that out and see if you can find it. And our wine of the week is the 2022 Conseil Magnon Baume Noire Vermentino. We gave it 94 points, $50. This is in Provence, France. It's right on the water there, just beautiful on the cliffs where this vineyard is. Nice wine, reasonably priced, and it's not a rosé, but you can get it in Provence. So anyway, check it out if you happen to be in that region, because I don't think you're going to find it on grocery store shelves, but maybe you will. I don't know. We'll see. All right. And with that, let's get to our restaurant and Corkage of the week. All right, Bar Le Côte, coastal cuisine, Spanish influences in Los Olivos. Don't think they have a Michelin star, but they definitely are gunning for one. This would be one of the nicer restaurants in Los Olivos. When we were there doing our tastings, we spent the day, and we'd already had reservations here because we'd done some research. But I just kept asking around everywhere. We went, hey, what's the best place in town for dinner? Bar Le Côte. What's the best place in town for dinner? Bar Le Côte. So yes, this is worth checking out. The service is outstanding. They have a prefix menu. Be ready for seafood. It is all seafood across the board. We actually brought a big bottle of red. So we were able to kind of get some other dishes there that supported it, but we drank a lot of white before we got to the red, getting through all the seafood. All of it was very, very good, but love seafood. The chef does a really, really nice job there. And Corkage is only $25 per bottle, no limit. So you're bopping all around Los Olivos, Solvang, you're out in San Ynez Valley, you're out in Happy Canyon, you pick up some great wine, bring it on in. And I'd bring 2 bottles though. If you're going to do the prefix menu, bring a bottle of white, bring a bottle of red, cork what you don't do and take it back to your room. But anyway, well worth it. So be sure to check it out while if you're in Los Olivos or in that whole region. And with that, we're going to wrap up another episode of This Week Uncorked. I want to thank everybody so much for joining us. As always, please check out, follow us on social media, and your favorite podcast app, all of those things over there on that side of the screen that you need to do for us. I'd appreciate that very much. Hey, and check out that interview with Jack Galante at Galante Vineyards below. Thank you so much, everybody. Take care.